Hey guys, so quick tip on how to make sure you stand out in the interviews, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. Maybe you just graduated from college or finished boot camp and you're interviewing right now and you're probably going up against 20, 30 people who are interviewing for the same spots. Some of them will have 3 to 5 years of experience. So what do you do to make sure that you actually stand out? So a lot of times in those first round of interviews, you will be given theoretical questions like, tell me what the promise is or what is a closure, right? And you definitely need to answer the question correctly. There's no way around that. So you could go like, oh, closure is a function that returns another function, blah, 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 right? But then use that as an opportunity to plug in a project that you might have worked on, right? So you could go like, oh, I actually used a closure in a project that I recently developed for myself, this workout app that tracks my workouts, and you tell a little bit more about your application that you just developed, right? So a couple things that this does. So immediately, I've been probably looking at your resume and see that you don't have a lot of real world experience. Immediately you eliminate my fear that you don't have real world application experience, right? You just told me about the project that you developed. Even if it's not deployed, even if it's not in production, like that's great. Like I know that you are beyond just memorizing some definitions and doing some lame exercises. Like you actually worked on an app, which you should be. While you interview, and you should absolutely be working on your own projects, even if you don't deploy them to production, even if they're not publicly available, you should be working on some projects, right? So immediately you eliminated that fear in my mind. The second and more important thing that you've done, you interrupted the conversation flow and you shifted it to your home turf. And I'll explain what's happening. As a hiring manager, usually we do kind of, first round of interviews, there's like 10, 15 people, right? And so I'm interviewing them in order. And it's the same questions, same answers, right? It gets kind of mundane and boring. And then finally I get to you and instead of just giving me the same answer, you plugged in your project. And it's interesting, and now it's a very human thing to be curious about that. And I might ask some questions, be like, oh, tell me a little bit more. Like what kind of workout app? Like what does it track? What tech stack did you use? What capabilities does it have? Like just tell me a little bit more. We're now, as two engineers talking about application, we're relating, we're creating connection. And you shifted the conversation away from theoretical questions to be talking about your project, which is great. Like you now have the home field advantage. You much rather would be talking about your own project that you developed where you feel way more comfortable than me just firing random theoretical questions at you, which you might or might not know the answer to, right? But the third and the most important thing, what you did with that is now you are the guy with the workout app. And when I go back and look over at everybody who I interviewed, this morning, there's going to be everybody else who gave me the right answers, and there's going to be the guy with the workout app. That's just natural. That has happened to me, and I know this trick. Like I still remember a guy I interviewed who told me about this cruise website where he would aggregate all kinds of deals on cruises. He told me that about in his interview. It's been years since we've discussed this. I still remember him as it was yesterday, right? It's just it sets in your memory. So make sure you set yourself apart, not by like this trick. It's not that you know more. It's just that you plugged in your project very subtly. Don't beat them over the head with your project every question. Use this technique very subtly. It doesn't work, you didn't lose anything. But if the conversation shifted and now you've started talking about your project for 10, 15 minutes out of the interview, you definitely have created some goodwill in that interview and you've set yourself apart from everybody else.